Predictability. Today I'm going to talk about the predictability, how that can help achieve some of the great results. Growing up in a war-torn country as well as a third world country, we were trying to live day to day. The survival was the most important part. As I moved through Africa and came to US to study and then work, that's the time I understood why these countries are very successful in doing many things in a large scale. One of the things is they had this foundation set, and everything they do was very predictable, and they had very stability into it. When you have that one, on top of that, you can innovate, take risks, and do many greater things. So that is what we are going to talk about today. As I grew up, when early in Sri Lanka, the schools were there. We studied for exam, and we didn't understand the bigger scale of it. When I came to US to do my college or university studies, that's the time I realized how organized the schools were, how organized every semester, every year, and towards the graduation. The first semester when I am here, they already able to scale out and put out the planning for how I would graduate, what are the classes I will take. Again, these are the baseline, and sometime when you go through that, you make some changes as you learn more, as you understand more. But you had a baseline, so this is very predictable, and you execute. And when I went to Stanford to study, there was a quarter system, which was 10 weeks. Within that 10 weeks, we did about 3 or 4 projects end to end. So we came up with the idea, then we build a team together, then we put together a proposal, and then we put a schedule and planning, and then we go and implemented it, and then presented the product and the project at the end. So by doing that, learning that again and again and again, very predictable fashion, I was able to go, and when I went to the industry or the real work life, I was able to do that. So as I went into Rockwell Semiconductor as my first job, it was very similar. They had this long-term planning for 5-6 years project, and then they had short-term milestones, and they were all very predictable. What we are looking for. Again, as I said, predictable does not mean it does not change, but you have a baseline plan. So we had the plan. As the market changes, as the environment changes, we made adjustment to it. But at least we had a baseline, going through this process. The same thing applies when I went to startup. Again, people tend to think startup means people try to do things in random and come up with idea every day, make changes and all that. Actually, in startup, it is more even important to do a predictable execution. So because you have limited resource, limited money, and limited time, because you don't get multiple chances when you're working on a startup with your customers. So we were, one of the main contribution from me to the startup was, planning well and putting these predictable ideas and milestones and tracking them and adjusting as time goes by. But again, all of these comes from that foundational, knowledge and the predictability of executing to that. So when you want to lead a bigger, larger team, that predictability gives, I will be talking about the scalability in a future, article about it, but the same thing. So you have the predictability, then you can do greater things. So again, my foundation, when I came and studied here, I was able to understand and learn from how to execute a project in a predictable fashion, and then learn at the early stage of my career, then apply that one during my startups. That helped us get to execute very complex product with a very limited resources within a short time of frame. So please go ahead and understand, the predictability is very key for big success. Thank you. We'll see you guys next week.